Hey everyone, my name is Kyle Thomas. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications at Opera Omaha. Um, a little bit about what I do. So I oversee all marketing and communication tactics for our company. So that means I write all of our copy, manage website, manage graphic design, manage box office sales, public relations, press releases. Essentially, if it's public and visible from the company, I kind of created it or had a hand in creating it. I've been with Opera Omaha for about a year and a half. I actually used to be at Midland University. I used to be the assistant director of the arts, where I oversaw all the marketing and enrollment and recruitment for all of the arts scholarship programs. But my background really is in musical theater. I got my undergrad in theater direction, and I worked in the theater world as a director, choreographer, actor, accompanist, musician, music director, you name it. I kind of did the freelance life for a while picking up side jobs and things like that in marketing. So I learned a little bit about how organizations market versus how then nonprofits versus for-profit businesses, and looked at kind of personal branding in terms of artists. And it kind of led me all to who I am today. So today, what I'm going to do is I am going to talk a little bit about personal marketing. What does it mean to market yourself? So not as much as from an organizational standpoint, but how do you market yourself and who you are to get hired within the arts? So what I want you to do is I want you to kind of imagine with me. So imagine that you are starting a new position, and you are starting a company, or you're starting a arts organization of some time. You're the founder, you're the CEO, you're the director. So after you start it, the very first thing that you're going to do is hire someone else. And so I want you to think, if you were in that position, who would you reach out to first? Who's the first person you're going to call to say, I'm starting a company, this is what I'm doing, please come join me? And so think of a person, like you can actually do this. Think of a person and think of, why are you reaching out to that person? What is it about them? Why were they your first, like, kind of initial gut, like, I need to call so and so? Why? Chances are that obviously they possess the skills that you're looking for, and they have the strengths that are required to perform whatever role you need well and increase the strength of your organization. So how did you know that they have those skills then? Like, have you worked with them before? Like, are you just familiar with their work? Um, and so think of, who are you going to call? Why are you calling them? And how did you know that they should be the person to call? How did that relationship, what is that relationship? And why are you going to them as your first hire to start a new company? Um, so imagine now, okay, so you're thinking of a person, you call them and they say, this is super great. I love you, but I have to turn that offer. I'm doing something else. So now, instead of calling your first kind of contact, you need to, post a position out, and you need to find new candidates. So you post a listing, you get a bunch of resumes of people you've never met before. So then think, if you have all these resumes, how are you going to decipher who you want to interview? Who are you going to take to that next step? If you're sorting through people that are strangers, how are you going to know who to take to that next step, who to continue to see if they're going to grow the strength of your organization? Um, Maybe you'll be in a position like this in the future. Maybe not. That's totally okay. But no matter who you are, eventually at some point, you're probably going to want to be hired for, something in your life, no matter what. So the real question that we're talking about today is, how do you become the top of mind person when there are people looking for people? How do you become the very first call for a job? Or how do you become a person that gets an interview? So what I like to do is I like to break it down into three different parts. And those parts are looking at our network, looking at our brand, and then looking at your visibility. So let's start with our network. So how I define network is that your network is pretty much every single person you have ever worked with, or maybe even beyond that, every single person you've ever interacted with. Of our relationships and our connections and the people we've connected with over the years, some we might have stronger relationships with others, just because, you work closer with certain people, or some folks, you just connect with better. And that's okay. That's life. And these are the people that, you will call first. These kind of like tightest, like I know them best. I am real close with them. If I give them a text, they're not going to like think I'm weird out of the blue. Um, so you're going to think of them before it's posted. If you were a CEO or something like that, you're going to think of a job before it's posted, or when it's posted. You're going to say, "Hey, you should. I recommend that you do this. I'm going to recommend that you connect with this, or recommend other people. Like, hey, I have a buddy. Those are people in your close network. So I want you to ask yourself, who are those people in your closest network now? Like these are like your close, tightest. So the circles of the people you know. This is the core. Um, I think, who are those people that I would recommend no matter what? I would call up whatever I need. Then kind of think, okay, well, outside of those core people, who are kind of like the next sphere? Like if we're going in concentric circles, who's kind of like my second closest network? And of those people in our second closest network, who would I be comfortable recommending for something? And then think, why am I comfortable recommending them for something? So we have our network. It's essentially made up of everybody we know. We have closer relationships, we have second relationships, people that we feel comfortable putting our reputation at stake with, who we know have the strength to complete something. So let's talk about brand. I think this is a word that kind of gets thrown out a lot right now. It's a very trendy word, is our brand. But how I like to define it, and this is literally just the Kyle Thomas definition, so take it for what you will. I like to say that your brand as an individual, not as an organization, your brand as an individual is a combination of your skills, your strengths, and your values. So let's break those down. So skills, for instance, skills are your technical abilities or talents that you possess. So this can be things like, anything from like tap dancing, welding, playing the trombone, event planning, proofreading, having good handwriting, playing Dungeons and Dragons. Those are skills and technical abilities. So how do those differ from strengths? So your strengths are then the qualities that you possess, that you contribute to a group of workers, I would say. So, if you were a group of like accountants that all have the same skill, what about you is going to support the entire team? And that's the strength that you're bringing. So maybe it's my creativity, my visualization, my attention to detail, my way to connect with people. Those are all strengths that you're bringing on top of your skills to support everyone. And then your values are kind of your core beliefs, that will influence how you interact with the culture of the work environment. So for instance, these are things that you're going to bring to anything, and you want to make sure that they kind of connect to whatever organization you're with. So for instance, what value do you bring? Do you believe in speed or productivity, or do you believe in allowing space for authenticity or DEI work? See, these are going to influence how you're interacting with people around you. So when we're thinking of our brand, think, okay, well, what does my network think of when they think of me? And so like if I were to ask, even without your knowledge, if I were to ask people, oh, what do you think of so and so, who are they? Are they going to say what's aligned with what you would say about yourself? Um, are they going to think of what's in line with your brand, if you will, or are they going to say something completely different? And that's really what we want to make sure, is that who you are is accurately represented in such a way that other people recognize that, and other people can also accurately represent it for you. So next up, let's talk about visibilities. This is how people see my brand. How do people get to know you? These people can, you can be visible to people in your network. You can be visible to people out of your network. So those can be like people that see you. Maybe they worked with you. They have had a working relationship. They know how you work. They know what your brand is because they experienced it firsthand when they connected with you. Maybe they saw you on social media. Maybe they know what you represent in a public sphere, or even a cyber sphere. Maybe they've seen your work in other outlets. Maybe they've seen your work on other people's social media in projects you've worked with, or like your website or the news, where they might not know you and they might be a stranger, but they've seen the work that you present, and they can make a judgment based on what you've been putting out. So when people outside of your network, they might experience the final prop. Maybe you were the choreographer on a show, and they came and saw the show. They don't know you, but they're like, hey, that was really good choreography, or hey, that was terrible choreography. They've seen your work and they're making a judgment of you and your brand based on that. Maybe you have a website, they're representing your website. Maybe they've seen your resume if you're applying for a job. Maybe it's just word of mouth. Maybe someone was out at coffee and they're like, oh, I worked with this great choreographer, so and so, and I loved working with them. They were professional. They were this, and they're going to start saying your brand to a complete stranger. So really, the question then is, you have, your brand, you know who you are, what your strengths are. So the question is, who else knows about that? Who is my brand visible to? And so is is my brand accurately seen by the audience that I want it to be seen by? Like, am I out there to the people I want to see? Um, so these are kind of like my concluding questions: is my brand accurately seen by the audience that I want to see it? Who do I want to know about my strengths, my values, and my skills? Um, and are they seeing it? Like, that can be a yes or no, or that can be like maybe. And so maybe another question of that is, okay, well, am I in the networks of the audiences that I want to be in front of? If you want to be seen by Broadway producers or something like that, are you in the Broadway producing network? Are you in the Broadway community? Yes or no? How do you get there then? Is kind of the next one. And that really depends per individual. There's a different path for everyone. It depends on your brand, it depends on your goals, it depends on where you want to be. And it's your job to kind of analyze those questions to know, how do you get there, and what steps do you need to take to get into a certain place. In terms of tactics, you can consider like do you for my audiences, do I need to have a website? Do I need to have a TikTok? Do I need to have an Instagram? Do I need to have a LinkedIn profile? Do I need to have a portfolio? Do I need an agent representing me? And think of the audiences that you want to be in, and think of what are the tools that they use, and make sure you have those tools to accurately represent your brand as well. um, Maybe it's all word of mouth. Maybe you're like, I need to go to more networking events and talk about who I am. Maybe I need to get my work out there more. Maybe I need to find more places to display what I do. So kind of in your personal analysis, just think, what do I need to add to this visibility, and what do I need to take away? Are there things that I need to do in addition, or make sure I'm doing, to make sure my brand is there and visible? All these things are just really just, each artist and each person is really an individual, and that's the thing. No, there's no one size fits all cookie cutter example that I can give you. But the really kind of the key is, think about where you want to be, who is there, and think of, are you in front of them, and how do you get in front of them to represent yourself accurately? Um, and really, it's a ever-changing model, but I always say that at the end of the day, no matter what kind of tactics you use, really the best is just sticking to your brand. The people that want to work with your brand are going to come to you and want to work with you again. Um, a lot of times it's just being you and hoping that people want to work with you. If you're a horrible person to work with, that's going to be your brand for others. You might get hired, but you'll never get rehired. So really, it's just up to you to find what works for you, what works for the goals and the path that you are outlining, and you'll be set. I appreciate the chance that I got to talk with everyone. If you have any questions, I am in the Omaha area. You can reach out to me. My stuff is on the Opera Omaha website. Feel free to reach out. Any questions? I'm happy to be a resource. Thanks so much. Have a great one.